Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's Friday, Junior, and you are hanging out with me. Welcome to another episode of your favorite digital show. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hear My Take. Thank you so much for being with me on another fabulous week. I certainly hope that you are doing okay. We have just touched down into spring in the Eastern Standard Time Zone in the United States of America, and I am so excited. Springtime is one of my favorite times of the year, and so it's starting to feel good outside. The sun is starting to linger longer, and that's a good thing for me and my countenance. I know some of us get seasonal depression, right, when the sun goes down early. So we're about to tiptoe into that good time of year. So I certainly hope that you are doing well. Listen, here's what I need you to do. Thumbs up. Yep. Hit the like button. Yep. I also need you to share. Follow me on social media at HearMyTake_. That helps me so that you can find out some of the other things that I'm doing. Also, make sure that you are liking this channel so that the algorithm will let you know when I am on the air. Are we on the air? Yes, we are. All right. So that's always helpful for me. So listen, on this show, I talk about things that tickle my fancy. I talk about things that cook my grits. I talk about all of it. It is fair game. If I find it and I like it and I want to opine on it, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. So if you want to ever get in touch with me, for whatever, topic ideas, a segment that you think I should cover, send me an email, hearmytake@gmail.com. We can chit-chat and have those kinds of conversations there, all right? So listen, we got a lot of stuff to get into. It is a really, really, really busy week in news and pop culture. So if you are ready, it is time for highlights and headlines. Yes. So let's all take a collective sigh, right? And so the first thing I want to get into is when you think about leadership, let's just go there. Let's just start there, right? When you think about leadership, right, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you? For me, I think of things like valor, right? I think of things like character, integrity, strength, coolness under pressure, kindness, right? For me, that's a sign of leadership. Decorum, mindfulness, care, TLC, all of those things to me are sort of wrapped under the moniker of leadership. Well, unfortunately for us, we are not experiencing any of those things as it relates to the current administration that is occupying the White House. So this week, the former director of the FBI, Robert Mueller, passed away. He was 82 years old. I believe his family said that he had been suffering from, I don't want to get that wrong, so I'm okay to be corrected in the chat. I believe it was Parkinson's, but I am okay to be fact-checked on that. But he was the leader of the Russia probe, right, in 47's first run at the White House. And that was what, Donald Trump called a hoax and all of the things. And but Robert Mueller was the person that was investigating that probe. And so he passed away this week. He was not a person that Donald Trump cared for at all. And in his passing on social media, Donald Trump stated, and I quote, "Good. I'm glad he's dead. Now he can no longer hurt innocent people." Ladies, gentlemen, let's sit with that for just a second. Because this is the sitting president of the United States of America. And this is what he had to say about another human being, first of all, and another American citizen that he is supposed to have purview over in terms of being the leader of this country. Listen, I understand not caring for people in certain instances, in certain situations. I don't think life is designed for us to care for everybody that we engage or interact in. You ain't gonna get no qualms from me on that. I understand it. But like our mothers and our grandmothers and our aunts told us, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't you dare say anything at all. This man cannot help himself. This statement, his position, his mindset on this man's passing is vile. It's mean-spirited. It is evil, in my humble opinion. It goes against every principle that we speak to in terms of how you should act, especially when you're referencing somebody that has passed away. There should be some reverence for that life no longer exists. This man still has family. He has a wife. He has children. All of these things. And for you to use your bully pulpit, i.e. his social media platform, to make a statement like that, shows me his petulant tantrums that are grossly humiliating to me and millions of other Americans. Now, I know he has a subset of people that lean into him and his nastiness, and they like it, and they think he tells it like it is, and all of these things. And listen, I'm okay with people telling it like it is, but you also need to have some, you need to have some semblance about yourself. You know, my mother used to say, you need to have a little bit, you need to care at least about how you show up. And see, that lets you know how little Donald Trump thinks about himself, for him to be able to say what he said in the bully pulpit fashion that he spoke. Again, we don't have to like everybody, but I just think that it is just really gross. That he would say something like that. And sometimes I start to wonder and think, for the people that align with, how he is and who he is and what he represents, is there ever a point where there's just a bridge a little too far for those folks? Is there something where they're like, oh, okay. I get it. I didn't like him either. I didn't like what you claim that he did to you. Russia. Donald Trump called it a hoax. It was not a hoax. It was very real. It was a very real thing. But because Donald Trump doesn't like to be held responsible for anything he can't explain away, he calls it a hoax. So my question is, for people that support Donald Trump, is there a line that shouldn't be crossed? Is there a bridge too far for you folks? Or you just lap it all up, no matter what he does, it's all right with you because you feel like, well, what they did to him, then he should be able to say whatever he wants to say. That's dumb. That is dumb. That is childlike behavior, and that is ridiculous. And if that is your position on that, baby, hit dogs will bark. So I just think that behavior is unbecoming. And I just feel that the people that are around him, that are his echo chamber, and they allow him to get away with it, even though apparently he's hard to rein in and all of these things, I still think you should be brave enough to say, they love to be like, sir. Well, this is the time when you should say, sir. You don't have to like the man, but you should just remain silent. I think that's all right too. Remaining silent is all right with me. And so I just think that it was just done in poor taste to me. And here's the real deal. Come in close, because I'm about to say it. Everybody has an expiration date, okay? We all do. His is coming, like all of us is. But I'm going to tell you what. To quote the psalmist Lionel Richie, oh, what a feeling when we're dancing on the ceiling. Folks gonna be dancing on the ceiling, okay? When homeboy finds an expiration date. Listen, I'm not calling for the man to perish or nothing like that. I'm just saying, because we are mortal beings, we come and we go. And when he goes, somebody said, allegedly, somebody has said, baby, we gonna party like it's 1999. People said the whole world gonna party like it's Mardi Gras, okay? I didn't say it. Somebody said it, okay? I'm just repeating what somebody has said. So just Be careful. And let me tell you something. Like they say, anything you could do, I could do better. I could do anything better than you. So I know a lot of people gonna have a couple of things to say when this time comes. But moving on, because I want us to as we move on, I feel that there is a mean spirit that is hovering around Earth right now. And I believe that, and I know people are like, well, wow, the world is tough anyway. I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with Donald Trump. Not specifically Donald Trump, but I think what we usher in leadership, like they say, things start at the top. You can think in any corporation or organization or company or anything, the culture, right? You're mindful of the culture because of what happens with the leadership at the top. And so right now, I don't know about you, but I feel that there is just a heaviness that is permeating, pressing down, hovering on the earth right now. And I think that there was, to me, some of this was activated by him. I don't know. That's just the way I feel about it right now. Are you familiar with Never Surrender Inc? Well, Never Surrender Inc is a PAC associated with Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. Okay. And there was an email sent by this organization. It was a fundraising email, right, that told wealthy donors that if they would donate to Donald Trump's PAC, that they would begin to receive access to private national security briefings. Hold up. I'm going to say that again. There was an email sent out, a fundraising email sent out, promising wealthy donors that if they contributed to his PAC, Never Surrender Inc., that they would begin to receive access to private national security briefings. Now, just so we're clear, national security on any and every level, particularly briefings, you need to have security clearance in order to access this information. You can't, it's not like a memo. It's not a press release that we're just sending out to people to give you information as to the goings on. No. You need to have security clearance in order to access things. Only certain number of people in Congress right now have access to national security briefings. And Donald Trump sent out an email stating that if you donate, I'll give you access. Why do they need access? Let's establish that. What's the reason? Why do they need access? What is that about? And then secondly, if you don't know, this is a major violation of the Hatch Act of 1939. And if you're not familiar with the Hatch Act, that law bars any federal employees from using their position and authority to benefit from any political party, candidate, or group that would be gaining any information from the federal government. The only political entity that would be benefiting the most with this ask is the president himself. This is what you would call illegal, just to say the least. Like, this is just what this is, right? And I think it's the unmitigated gall to say, it's quid pro quo, is what we called in radio payola, pay for play. You pay, I'll play your music. Quid pro quo, you do something for me, I'll do something for you. To the degree that I would put in jeopardy the lives of American citizens just for some big face hundreds. You know, I sometimes I just get really exacerbated when I think about how far beyond the pale we are, you know. And here's the deal. The United States does not have clean hands on several fronts by any means. Let's just be very clear. And so this is not naivete that I'm sitting here thinking, oh, well, you know, the government has never done anything bad, or the government has never done anything egregious or, you know, underhanding, or I get it. I know what time it is. And I certainly hope you know what time it is. But I think what is happening, listen, it could be for, and I'm prefacing this, and I'm disclaiming this with the word benefit, but hear me when I say the word benefit, right? Some of these things that are happening, the American people never had any knowledge of in terms of some of the intricacies and some of the connections and what really, really, really goes on at some of these high level positions in government, right? And so ever since Donald Trump came down that gold escalator, because he is, to me, he is not refined enough to understand what needs to be held close to the vest. He is very loosey-goosey. He's very, and you know why? In my opinion, he does this because he wants people to think that he has high level of intelligence. But to me, it is exposing him like it exposed the Wizard of Oz when you're starting to pull back the curtain, right? What the old mothers used to say, baby, your slip is showing. Right. So he kind of does this to puff himself up because listen, he is aware. He knows what's going on from every aspect of what's happening here in our homeland to overseas and to other countries. He knows what is going on. And to me, him knowing is extremely dangerous because he holds the button, the access to the button that could send all of us into smithereens. Right. But I think it also, if you're paying attention, you're starting to see and realize what is really going on in the government when once upon a time, a lot of this stuff to me was sort of shielded. And for good reason, because I don't know if all of us need to know, you know, kind of like in your household for your children, like they don't need to know what grown folks is doing. Okay. You know, like get out of grown folks business. You know, we'll tell you on the ass need to know basis, or when it gets really bad, then we'll let you know. But some stuff we need to hold close to the vest. Some stuff we don't need to share because it puts us, to me, in a position to be exposed when there are some pieces of information that hold high level secrecy, right? High level, to me, non-disclosure that should not be disclosed, right? And so my point in saying that is, I don't know about you, but the more and more I think he talks, because he, you know, like they say, loose lips shinks. Wait, that's a tongue twister. Loose lips shink. We gonna get it. Take 3. Loose lips sink ships. We got it. And that way, to me, Donald Trump has such loose lips that I feel like our ship is starting to slowly sink. I'm saying all of this to say this is gross negligence. And for somebody who claims to be America first, this undermines our safety and our security, because only God knows, for the right price, whose hands this kinds of top secret information can get into, which can ultimately destroy us. And some of this, I feel like, is starting to destroy us from the inside out. I don't really think, it could be something external that will start to chip away at, you know, who we are and the bedrock, you know, ideal of America. But a lot of this is starting to erode little by little. The cheese is starting to move little by little, and the call is coming from inside of the house. I feel like with him being in the White House, this is the biggest Ponzi scheme in America, on earth, actually on earth, everything that he's doing. And so it gets really unnerving because when you think about the type of access that he wants to give to people that have the money to pay to do it, it becomes, all of it becomes just a way to lobby for access to do things that they want to do without regard to what is of the utmost importance to we the people. And so when you think about access, when you think about getting information, the way that we remain informed, we currently are beginning to see the beginnings of a hostile takeover. And I'm meaning that as it relates to our media outlets, because I'm not sure if you know that, well, and let me say this. Some networks, as we know, lean one particular way politically. MSNBC used to lean very, very liberal. Of course, we know that Fox leans very, very, very conservative. I always felt like CNN probably did the best job in terms of trying to balance the two. That's what I think. That tide is turning. And it's turning more specifically now because I don't know if you know, but a lot of outlets right now are falling under one particular umbrella, and it's under the umbrella of the Ellisons. And the networks that they are currently having under the auspices of their control is not only just legacy media, but social media as well. TikTok, CBS, CNN, HBO, the Discovery Channel, BET, the Cartoon Network, Comedy Central, DC Studios, Fandango, Miramax, MTV, Nickelodeon, Paramount, Pluto TV, Showtime, TBS, the CW, TNT, and Warner Brothers, just to name those. There are more. But y'all, I listed, I don't know, 15 to 20 television networks that are going to be under the auspices of the Ellisons. Larry Ellison, am I saying that? Ellison, yeah, Larry Ellison and David Ellison. They're going to have control over all of those networks. Do you realize how much control that is? That's a lot. And this is why for a long time, monopolies were broken up, because it seems like once upon a time when we were breaking away from things like monopolies, we're trying to come back to that, all for control and power. To be clear, if you don't know, a monopoly is a market structure where one single company or entity is the sole provider of a particular product or service facing no meaningful competition. And so when there is no competition, they are able to dictate prices and output, often restricting consumer choices and charging higher prices. Think cell phone companies. If once upon a time when they were all under one, monopoly, think cable companies, think electric companies, think anybody that is able to control the masses with there just being one entity to do it. That becomes a really, really dangerous game. And because monopolies are illegal, I don't know how this guy, Donald Trump, and his cronies have been able to bend all of these laws to their will. Yes, I know that he has placed loyalists and cronies in certain positions. So, of course, logically, that makes sense. But I just have a problem because this is violating antitrust laws like the Sherman Act and the Clayton Act, which are to prevent unfair market dominance. This is what this stuff is put in place to do. And for whatever reason, people like Brendan Carr, who's the FCC chair, Donald Trump, all of them are just pushing and bending the bows on what is supposed to be institutional when it comes to our laws and our policies and these antitrust, acts that are in place. And so it is becoming a thing of, you do me a favor and I'll do a favor for you. And that ultimately is going to turn into state-run media. And state-run media is what happens when dictators are in control. And if you remember, and I think the other thing that drives me nuts is that people don't believe Donald Trump when he says what he says. Because I remember when somebody asked him, are you going to be a dictator? Do you want to be a dictator? And he said no, except on day one. How come why didn't anybody believe that? Like, why I think the thing that gets me is, why do people think he's joking? Because he's not. He means exactly what he says. Like they say, he always says the quiet part out loud. And he does. And here we are getting ready to be in a situation where you're not going to know what the truth is, or if it is a framed kind of truth, that they want their truth, not the truth, a truth, not the truth. And so this is when, it's so interesting, because when I was a kid, I did not like history at all. It could be because at that time, for me, there was just no relevance to why it was so important. But y'all, we gotta stay informed as best we can. And it's really going to be tough moving forward because of how all of these companies are under one umbrella right now. But listen, when we were kids, the Encyclopedia Britannica was where you went for necessary information on history and how things were. And because past this prologue, I think we need to start going back to reading up on history, seeing how other empires fell. What were some of the telltale signs that were starting to pop up to be indicative of where it feels like we are leaning now? Thankfully for now, presidents only have 2 terms. But yet again, Buddy is trying to change that. Now, he is getting ready to age out, okay? This is a time where you be like, well, ageism is actually all right, okay? And I don't mean no harm by that, because we all, if the Lord blesses us, will get to a point where age may become a factor. But I just feel like in this instance, and I mean that for Congress as well. I mean that for the Supreme Court. Like, at a certain point, baby, you need to go ahead and pass the baton. Like, we need to be able to turn a new leaf and get some fresh blood and some fresh mind and some fresh ideals into what the decision making needs to become. And so I just believe that we need to continue to pay attention. Yes, turn the TV off if it starts to weigh on you emotionally, but try to, like they say, eat the meat and spit out the pieces you don't need, right? All right, you ready for Champs and Chumps? Because it is time. All right, coming in number 1 this week for Champs and Chumps is shout out to Delta Airlines. Now listen, Delta is my preferred airline carrier, okay? I just feel that they do a really great job intercontinentally. I mean, I've traveled internationally, and there's some other airlines that do really great jobs as well. But within the U.S., I think Delta probably is the number 1 in my book, because they have, in lieu of all of the things that are going on at airports here in Atlanta, I mean, Hartsfield is just bottlenecked on all fronts and all sides. It is a nightmare in that airport. And so Delta has suspended travel perks for members of Congress during this shutdown. And I am 10,000% in agreement with this. Baby, you cannot be out here unable to make decisions about what's going on in the travel industry and how citizens are having a tough time. They're missing out on family vacations, or if they're trying to travel for bereavement or going to see your kid in college, or whatever the travel, need is. People are losing money. They're losing time. And for you to be able to walk up because you're a member of Congress to get access, to not have to wait in the line, baby, you tried it. First of all, how many of you knew that was a thing? I mean, maybe I should have thought that was a thing, but I didn't know that was actually a thing. And now that I do know that it is a thing, baby, get to the back, stand behind me. Yes, because you can't seem to get your act together. You can't seem to bring the people together to be able to make some common sense laws that will benefit everyone. How come you don't want these people to live and make money? Congress? It's ridiculous. So shout out to Delta for that. I mean, how dare you think that you should expect preferential treatment? How dare you? These people are selling blood and plasma for gas and for food to eat and for their children's daycare. And you want to be able to just walk carte blanche? I think not. Now, let me just say this. I had one eye on Delta for a while because they did donate $1 million to Goofball in the White House, okay? I ain't like that a whole lot. I didn't really care for that a whole lot, okay? But I think they have recalibrated the scales, all right, with this here. Because, yes, no, you don't get any preferential treatment until you all can get yourselves together. So shout out to Delta Airlines for that, all right? Coming in at number 2 is Tyler Perry. Because in the same vein, right, in the same vein of the airport, he was spotted in Atlanta's airport trying to distribute significant gifts to the TSA workers, trying to make sure that, they could stay above float and could have some money to float them until, Congress was able to get it together. And I think that is incredibly kind and noble and mindful. Remember that leadership that we talked about? That is what leadership does. There is a piece of care that comes with people that are leaders. And I think this certainly exemplified that. Now, unfortunately, federal rules do not allow for them to accept gifts of any kind, but I do think that it was incredibly mindful and thoughtful, and the workers were very, very, very grateful that it meant a lot to them. Those people have not been paid for 40 days. Think about if you ain't getting no money for 40 days. How ticked off, how tight you finna be. You understand? And TSA is not an easy job. And so I applaud Tyler Perry for that, and for being thoughtful enough to want to make sure that folks would have a little something to be able to hold on to. All right. So let's move on to these chumps. All right. So coming in at number 1 for the chumps is Walmart. Baby, let me tell you why now. And this should upset all of us. Walmart has secured multiple U.S. patents related to AI-driven price predictions and automated pricing. What does that mean to you? They are creating significant consumer and expert concerns regarding potential surge pricing in stores. They're calling these things digital shelf labels. They're currently being rolled out in all 4,600 of the United States stores. So think when you're trying to get an Uber and it's peak timing and they're going to peak them prices because the demand is high. So what was once a bag of chips that was $5, now during peak timing is going to be $8 or whatever the demand is calling for. So the more and more they're ringing up, the higher and higher that price of that thing is going to become. I think that is egregious. I think that is nasty work. I think that it is, I think it is selfish, because it makes me feel like, why does the government and corporations want us to compete to survive? Like, what is happening with these people that sit at the top of these companies and these organizations, and they sit around and say, and for our next trick, we're getting ready to start surcharging people based on supply and demand. Do I understand supply and demand? I do. But why is it that you need to, to this degree? Like, are you not already making an incredible amount of profit? Prices at the grocery store are exorbitant. The highest that they've ever been. And you mean to tell me that's not enough? So in an effort to just peel more money from the American people, peel off of us, we're going to make it harder and more expensive for you to come in here and get a carton of eggs. Because a lot of people are buying eggs. Oh, and not only are a lot of people buying eggs, a lot of people are buying eggs between 5 and 7 p.m. because that's when people get off work to go get groceries so that they can have food in the morning for their children before they go off to school. Do you think that is okay? That is egregious behavior. And I really want to know what the end game is for these companies. Because while they continue to make profit, they are kicking consumers in the throat. It's almost like they're wanting to enact and inflict pain on us. The people are already not making enough money. The money that people used to deem to be a good salary, it doesn't stretch anymore like it once did. So what is the end game? Just to milk everybody dry? I heard a quote that somebody said that a lot of corporations and really wealthy people are trying to go so far north to separate themselves from the rest of the population that eventually you go so far north, you're going to have to come back south. Because once you go north so much, you're going to come back down south. And then once you do that, you're going to price your consumer out to be able to purchase the very products that you were trying to sell. So again, the question that I have, what is the end game? Because in a minute, you're going to have a whole lot of merchandise and a whole lot of products that nobody is going to be able to afford to be able to purchase. So what are we in this thing for? Corporations, big box companies. What are we doing here? It really begins to start to leave me speechless, because I just think that clearly at that level, they what did Michael Jackson say? All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Coming in at number 2 for the Chump of the Week, who seems to stay in the category of chumps all the time, is 45. Nope. That's the one. So early this week, Donald Trump loves to talk about, and I believe he was in Memphis, Tennessee, when he was in front of, I don't know who he was in front of, maybe a conservative group. And he reiterated his talking point about how terrible mail-in voting is. And he likes to frame it as mail-in cheating. We've all heard that same skit and song and dance before, so we know what he feels about mail-in voting. Here is where the plot thickens. There was a special election that occurred down in Palm Beach, Florida, I believe, early on Tuesday, where not only did Donald Trump mail in his vote, but Melania and Barron, all three of them, did mail in voting. Come again, you don't say? Absolutely. All three of them did it. Now, mind you, Donald Trump had been in Florida for the last 2 weeks. Oh, you don't say? No, I say. He had been in Florida for the last 2 weeks. Down there playing golf. Down there, dilly-and dallying, right? Hanging out with his homeboys and all of the things. And had the nerve to not do it while he was there. Oh, no. He didn't have enough time to vote while he was there. He waited until he was no longer there and decided to mail in vote. Let me let you listen to what his reasoning was as to why he chose to do mail-in voting.
Tell me about mail-in ballots. Go ahead. You mean I used a mail-in ballot? You probably said, yeah, I did.
Why did you
know what? Because I'm president of the United States, and because of the fact that I'm president of the United States, I did a mail-in ballot for elections that took place in Florida, because I felt I should be here instead of being in the beautiful sunshine taking.
But you were in Palm Beach, sir, the last few weekends.
That's right, and I decided that I was going to vote by mail-in ballot because I couldn't be there, because I had a lot of different things. But we have exceptions for mail-in ballots. You do know that, right? So if you're away, we have an exception. If you're in the military, we have an exception. If you're on a business trip, we have an exception. If you're disabled, we have an exception. And if you're ill, if you're not feeling good, whatever. So I was away mostly in Washington, D.C., so I used a mail-in ballot. But I appreciate the question because I know it was so well-meaning. Yeah.
Does anybody have anything to say about that? It irritates. It irritates the crap out of me. That is not the word that I wanted to use. But I just can't understand. Because do you feel gaslit or is it just me? Rules for thee and not for me. Do as I say, not as I do. Don't worry about what I'm doing. I'm the president of the United States. But you can't do it. You need to be at the polling place. And no, you can't vote early neither. I want you to stand in line. I want you to be inconvenienced. And no, I don't want there to be a holiday on voting day so people can have enough time to go vote. No, I want you to be as inconvenienced as you possibly can be. Because that's the type of cat I am. Just because. Do you know that this recreation center in Palm Beach, where he votes, is a 3.9 mile drive from Mar-a-Lago? To translate that into time, y'all, it is a 13-minute drive. And you mean to tell me when he was down there for 2 consecutive weekends in a row, he couldn't do a 13-minute drive? He couldn't golf cart himself over to the polling place to vote? He couldn't do none of that? Listen, if you are a Trump supporter, and at no point do you feel like he is playing in your face, that he is disrespecting you at every turn, then I think you need to do, with all due respect, you need to do some introspection. Because this is a blatant disregard to me for your level of intelligence. He is playing in your face. And you are letting him. So let's go to a new segment that I am calling It's Random, but It's News. So let's talk about Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker. They have finally finalized their divorce. And Kandi is making a clean break. She is able to walk away from this marriage, paying no child or spousal support, and all she has to pay is a one-time fee of under $500 million, $426,000 to be exact. That is the payout to close it out. They will share custody of their children while splitting assets, their cars, and I think they have a business with a particular food truck. But Kandi is making out like a fat cat baby, and bravo! Listen, mama knows best. Remember when Kandi Burruss' Mama Joyce was like, you better get this prenup, because if you get a divorce, I don't want this man to be able to take half of all of your life's legacy money and all of what's going to happen to me and Riley and everybody else. Mother said, I wish you would get married and not have a prenup. Apparently it paid off. I thought that Kandi and Todd were a really cute couple. And to be honest, I thought Mother Joyce was going a little overboard, because at some point you do have to let your children make the decisions that they want to make. However, Mother was right. Because, I mean, do you think Todd would have tried to take like half of everything that Kandi has earned her entire life? Like, do you think he's that kind of guy? I don't feel like he is, but you know what? Divorce can be very, very ugly. It can be very ugly. So I'm not sure if things would have turned so bad that it may have brought about that type of result at the end of the divorce settlement. But congratulations to her. And I hope the best for them and their family, because they do have children and they do have a lot of things where they were integrated. And so I certainly hope that after this is over, they can be amicable, right? It's random, but it's news. Drew Ski, listen to me. If you have not seen the latest parody that Drewski has done, where he is emulating MAGA women, do yourself a favor and go find it, because Drewski has hit this out of the park. And listen, I know, people have been called, snowflakes and being thin-skinned. I think a lot of Republicans say that about a lot of Democrats. Okay, cool, that's fine. Say what you want to say. But baby, when that shoe was on the other foot, what you got to say now? They said that the MAGA movement is up in arms, honey. Go check it out. It is so good. And listen, folks are all right when Donald Trump say the goofy stuff out of his mouth that he says, right? Drewski is a comedian. That's what comedians do. And baby, he is hitting the nail on the head. A lot of people say that the person that he is emulating isn't just MAGA women, but they say it looks a lot like Erica Kirk. Baby, go check it out for yourself and report back and tell me what you think, because I think Drewski hit it out of the park for this one. I think he did a good job. I was really, 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 really very entertained. I certainly hope that you all are able to navigate, this current political landscape with enough strength, with enough balance, with enough I don't know, emotional intelligence. I don't even know if that's the word that I want to use, right? But listen, I feel like we are in tough times right now. Just because everything is coming at a unbearable pace. I mean, you go left, you go right, and you don't know that the next thing that comes, it might wipe us all out. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another, okay? Because we need each other right now in this season, all right? Please like, please subscribe, please follow on all social media at hereby_take_. The best compliment that you could give me is to share this or any other episode, all right? We're going to ride this thing till the wheels fall off, okay? Is that all right? Remain in heavy pursuit of the things that bring you joy. And I'm going to see you next Thursday, all right? Take care of yourself, all right? Remember me and birth your thing. We out here just trying to figure our things out, all right? So I'll see you next Thursday at 8. You speak Spanish? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, maybe it'll be 8 o'clock, somewhere in and around 8 o'clock, all right? Typically, that's the time that I record, all right? I'll see you then, all right? Until then, God bless you. I'll see you later, fam. Have a good one. See ya.